Hello, viewer. Well, on a previous episode, you saw me take down all the metal panels that were on the roof up here and on the walls around here. And now it's time to remove the wood skeleton. Now, a lot of it is made up of these braces which are put together with dowel pegs. So that dowel peg goes right the way through, comes out on this side over here. You can see another dowel peg just up there. So the trick with these is that you bash the dowel pegs out, and then that piece of wood should come loose, except for the fact that it's got a nail up the top. But in theory, you remove the dowel pegs, and it's then just a case of dismantling it. Easier said than done, though, because a lot of these dowel pegs have been in there a long, long time, and they may have rotted within the actual timber. So getting them out isn't so easy. You might have to drill them out. Most of these uprights seem to be based on a stone block so that the rot doesn't start at the bottom of the timber. It's a clever old technique that they had then. You can just see over there that the one that comes down there has got a block of stone at the bottom there as well. So it's a sneaky technique to stop the rot starting from below. But in essence, I'm going to start with the upper pieces and then work my way to the uprights at the top of the cross pieces at the top of the uprights, and then the uprights themselves I'll just probably push over. All of the timbers that are going to be usable, which hopefully will be quite a lot, will go onto my timber pile over there, so I'll get rid of the corrugated plastic which is there. Stack up that pile with more timbers that I can use, and then put a tarpaulin over it because it rains. That should be a useful day's work. Okay, on we go. Hello, viewer. Well, here we are up at the top. These cross purlins, they need to go first, and then I can get to the rafter, I suppose, joist, I don't know, get to that one. This one has pegs down the bottom and is cemented into the wall at that end, so that'll be interesting. The purlin seems to only have nails. So if I can free up this end, then I'll go and free up the other end, see what happens. Now, this joist is resting on top of that joist over there that I want to take down. So I've got to take this one down first, and then that one. Now, obviously it's not a good idea for me to have the ladder resting on this purlin whilst I'm trying to remove this purlin. So I'm going to have to move the ladder in order to get this one down. Purlins down, hurrah! Now onto these pieces here. Look. So this triangular piece here is held down by screws at that, nails at that end, and a couple of nails at this end. So what I think I'm going to probably do, if I can release the nails at this end, I'll let the weight of the joist, whatever, slide down this joist, and as it slides down it should pull the nails out at that end, hopefully. Of course, I'm in the way of it sliding down, so a little bit of caution. I think it's going to take a metal saw to saw through the nail, because it's just too rusted in place. Well, unsurprisingly, doing slightly foolhardy things make me a little bit hot and sweaty, so I've lost my jumper. Not so sure about this one, as if I'm sure about anything, but the piece which goes behind me up to the wall plate, it seems to be attached to the upright here. So if I chop that to give this piece some freedom, does that mean that the upright behind me here is now no longer supported? I'm not quite sure. I think I will get down and ponder a little bit. Yeah. So the upright here is connected to this joist, diagonal joist here. So that obviously stops the upright going in that direction. This cross piece, which supports those tiles and is nailed into the wall plate, I assume, can't see any nails, but I assume it is, that comes across here, and I can't see any nails attaching this piece to the upright, but it would make sense that there are some. Or maybe it's connected to this. Either way, without that upright, that cross piece, this upright could sort of waggle a bit, which we don't want until I actually want to remove it. I think I need a longer ladder to get up here so I can reach down from the top with the metal saw and cut the last remaining nail. Yeah. Let's have one more go with the big crowbar. Nope. Okay. It's the saw. Okay, progress so far. So we've got an upright and a diagonal going over here, second diagonal, and those both hold that wall, remains of a wall, in place. So I think if I take away the two diagonals and and that cross piece there, then pretty much that upright wall type frame is going to be standing on its own. And as we said at the beginning, just down there, the uprights are actually standing on stones, so there's nothing really holding them in place once these diagonal supports are taken away. So that wall should in theory fall over. And to be honest, I think it's pretty much going to be easier to dismantle on the floor. You might be able to see up here, some of the pieces are held in place with bolts and they're very rusty. So there's no way that those are going to come apart easily. So I think that's going to be an angle grinder job. So if I can take away the upright, obviously there's a little bit of a joint connection here, which I may have to deal with before that wall just falls away. But I think that's probably the next task. Now on this one, it's nailed, that corner piece is nailed, and there's no pins, no wooden pins holding that piece in place. So that should be easy to take apart. Over here, you can see a wooden pin, and you've got wooden pins in there as well. So hopefully I can just knock those out and just dismantle that triangular brace. Over there, you can see that there's a wooden pin and another wooden pin just there. Let's zoom in on that. So if I can knock out those wooden pins, hopefully that should make life easy. Up there, it looks like there's some bolts, so that's going to be a bit of a stinker. But then again, let's have a look at this. So that is held in place between stones. So that's all right. That's not really going to go anywhere. So once I get the top of it separated, maybe that'll just stay in place until I deal with it. So if I can remove this angular piece here, then maybe that'll just fall away. Okay, up there, that one actually goes into the wall, so I may have to chip out some of the plaster, the mortar around it, or maybe I just take out this upright piece. If I take out that upright piece, maybe that will help. At this end, we've got the old pegs in again, and the triangular brace has pegs, and up here, nails. So I'm going to have a little bit of a break, have a drink, come back and deal with this lot. So this is what I was saying about the pegs. The peg goes through, so it's drilled out, usually a sort of 1 inch, 25 centimetre hole, drilled right the way through. The peg is not round, it's actually shaved on the sides so that it binds to the inside of the hole. And then on the other side, you've got sometimes it's cut off, sometimes there's just a bit poking out. If there was a bit poking out, then I could just whack it and in theory that should just pop out. We'll see what happens. You can probably see there that it's not quite round. They've used a spoke shave on the outside of it to flatten it off, and that's why it wedges itself in, because it just binds. So now that that's out, this joint is loose. I get a crowbar into that one, which is held in place with nails, and then that should just fall out. Hopefully not on me. There we got the hole which the pin went through, and the trick is that you drill that hole first, and it's slightly out of sync with this hole, such that when that goes in, this hole is slightly that way, slightly that way, so that when you drive the peg in, it pulls this into position. It pulls it tight to the face. That's the theory, anyway. Sometimes the peg is just so wet that this thing just drives straight into it and makes a mess of this end. So that end probably hasn't moved at all. And the only thing that you can do when that happens is to just cut this off on this side here. I mean, if the gap in there is sufficiently big, I could put in something like a Japanese saw, which is thin, and I could get it into the gap and cut through the peg on both sides, and then I could lift it out. But I don't think that the gap is. They were good carpenters, you know, no gaps. So I'm just going to have to cut down here. And of course that means that this side is completely unsupported. So I don't really want to do that until I know that that end is completely loose and ready to come out, because that end is up at the wall plate, at the very top of the wall. So as this comes down, I want that end to fall out. I don't want it to lever up. If it levers up, the entire beam across the top of the wall plate could be moved, which is a bad idea. So maybe I just screw a block of wood down here to support it and then cut it. That's probably a better move. But anyway, let's have a look at that end and try and loosen it up. No, I can't see any other nails up this end. So that piece of wood that's supporting these tiles is supported by a nail at that end, and it's free until it gets to that end. So, and there's a good 2 fingers of gap between this piece of wood and the wall plate. So it's not as if I can just drill a hole and put a screw through, because it'll be hanging on a nail, a screw, which is not clever. Not building regulations, eh? Oh dear. Okay, what happens if we take that last row of tiles off and take the piece of wood off? Well, that's not too bad, because the last but one tile is just this side of the wall plate. So in theory, the rain comes off and doesn't hit the wall plate, doesn't soak into the wall plate and rot it. All right. This upright, there's one bolt that goes through this piece. So in theory, this piece, I can release it, that's it. It will pivot, in theory. However, there's also a nail that goes from this piece to the purlin, which goes across that way. So I don't want to just let that end fall, because it will mess up this purlin. Now, the purlin is too long. So I could probably just cut the end of the purlin off after the nail, or before the nail. I think I'll try that. Obviously, standing on a ladder which is resting against the thing that I'm about to cut off is not a good idea. Don't do this at home, children. Right. Egg, egg. Specialist big removal tool. So, this end is unpinned and loose in the socket. Now to deal with that end. if I cut through this joist here, it just falls and pulls itself out of the socket over there, which, as long as it doesn't fall on my ladder, is okay. But I can't guarantee that. If I take the upright, leave that connected, and cut the upright at the bottom, it can't fall this way because the purlin's in the way, so it could only fall that way, and it hit the wall of the house, which is probably all right. I think I'll do that. Now, having cut that, why isn't it falling over? It must be because there is still at least one nail connecting that up there to the purlin. I thought I'd sawed through it. Oh, by the way, this is a wood saw. That's a metal saw. I did change the blades. So, I've got to get back up there again. However it's connected up there, it's pretty bloody strong. I mean, that's just hanging, it's dangling. I don't know what on earth is holding. Be another nail. Right, what's going to happen? I cut through the purlin. This falls down. Hits the ground because it's just dangling, hits the ground, falls that way, but if I cut the purlin, no, because it's angled, the upright is angled in that direction, so it can't really fall in my direction. Right, so if it falls in that direction, that comes out of its socket, comes down here, it should all fall in that direction. Should I really try and find a safety harness, just in case? I really ought to. lunch, back again. I'm going to take out the pegs on these triangular braces before I get to do that end piece over there, because once this wall does fall over, the pegs are a lot harder to get out. I'll get on with it. Now, this rail is loose at this end because the pegs come out, but it's not loose at that end because the peg won't come out. But then again, these dovetail into a mortise in this beam, this upright. So it's not as if I can push it that way to pull it out of the mortise. I either cut it clean, which I'm going to have to do at that end, or I wait until the wall is down. I'll wait until the wall is down. More pegs. So the plan is, with that side pretty much cut off, I'm now going to cut off this side, hold on to it, throw it, and that should be safe. Doesn't help when the blade goes and bends, but there we go. I'm going to screw, I've cut part way through it. I'm going to screw a piece of wood on the top of it, which will be screwed to the end, which is going to fall off, and resting on the other bit. So it's just there to stop the beam falling as soon as I cut through. So now, because there are bolts in the corner over there, holding the rails in place, I'm not going to get anywhere with trying to undo the bolts, they're just too rusted. So, where the upright meets the cross piece, I'm just going to have to cut through. Obviously I've removed all of the pegs for this diagonal brace, so in theory that would fall out once there's a bit of slack in there. Okay, over here the diagonal brace is held in by nails, so I want to get that end free, so that when that end is cut, the top rail can just fall out, I think. All right. What's going to happen? I'm going to cut this. It wants to fall down. It's held in place by the brace. The brace is going to be exerting a push in that direction, which is going to push the wall over, perhaps. And then the whole lot comes tumbling down. So when the saw comes through, I want to have my hand on here and I want to be pushing in that direction so that it all falls away from me. That's my plan. I'd say that went according to plan. more or less. So that joist there was the one that fell off from that little notch over there. And because the pegs were taken out, the diagonal joist there, the diagonal brace, did just come apart, and it did just push the wall in that direction. So all of that frame now is on the floor, ready to be pulled apart, sawn apart, all the wood harvested into reuse or burn. That's another hour and a bit's work. You'll have seen me taking nails out, pieces of wood that I've just thrown on the floor before. The reason is that I'm the sort of person who will stand on those nails. So some of the edge pieces that I had just taken off earlier, that were just lying there in a pile, when I was putting the big beam up there, put my foot down, felt something sharp, a nail went straight through the sole of the shoe. It hurt the side of my foot. I'm hoping there's no blood, but we'll see. Well, as my American brethren often say, stick a fork in me, I'm done. There seems to be, in some places along here, a bit of a stone wall underneath the dirt that would have been butting up against the wooden wall. So obviously I'm going to have to harvest those. There's these stones which formed a plinth underneath the uprights, I'll harvest those, they go on the stone pile. Yeah, I'm shattered. I'm going to go home. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. If you can do hype, please. I shall switch you off now and see you again another time. Yeah, not quite sure what we'll do then.